Top 10 ordinary rocks worth thousands. Most people don't realize it, but some of the world's most valuable stones don't sparkle. They don't catch the eye. They look so ordinary, dusty, cracked, dull. You might mistake them for junk. And that's what makes them dangerous to overlook, because hidden inside these unremarkable rocks are stories worth thousands of dollars. In this video, we'll explore 10 ordinary-looking rocks that could be sitting in your backyard, waiting to be discovered. You'll learn how to recognize them, what makes them valuable, and why some of nature's greatest treasures don't shine until you look closer. Don't forget to press and hold that like button, leave a comment, and hit subscribe before we begin. Ranked 10th, Herkimer Quartz, the fake diamond that could be worth $1,000. At first glance, it looks like nothing more than a shard of broken glass, something you'd step over on a hiking trail without a second thought. But that clear, uncut crystal could be worth over $1,000. This is Herkimer Quartz, one of North America's most deceptively ordinary rocks and one of the most valuable. Found mainly in Herkimer County, New York, these double-terminated quartz crystals form inside pockets of dolostone, a sedimentary rock over 500 million years old. What sets them apart isn't just their clarity, but their perfection. Each crystal grows with 18 to 24 natural facets, like it's been precision cut by a jeweler. But here's the twist. Nature did it all, no polishing required. To the untrained eye, a Herkimer resembles a dull, cloudy chip embedded in limestone. They get mistaken for regular quartz, glass, or even debris. But collectors know better. A flawless 1.5-inch specimen can sell for $500 to $800, and larger cluster formations have gone for $1,500 or more at gem shows in Tucson and Denver. And they're still out there, hidden in plain sight. Hikers, farmers, and even locals pass them by every day. But if you know where to look, in cracks, vugs, and old rock walls, you might uncover one of the Earth's natural treasures, disguised as nothing at all. Ranked 9th, Labradorite, where fire hides in stone. Not every valuable rock announces itself with sparkle. Some stay quiet, muted, matte, even dull, until they're seen correctly. That's Labradorite. By all accounts, it resembles an unremarkable chunk of slate, gray, weathered, and overlooked. But shift it in your hand just a few degrees, and the entire surface erupts, with streaks of electric blue, flashes of gold, and bursts of green that seem to flicker beneath the surface. This isn't decoration, it's physics. Labradorite owes its visual sorcery to a phenomenon called labradorescence, caused by light bouncing between thin, internal layers of feldspar crystal. The effect is so dramatic that Inuit legends claim Labradorite was born from the frozen fire that had fallen from the northern lights. Discovered in the 1700s on the frigid coast of Labrador, Canada, the stone has since been unearthed in Oregon, Utah, and parts of New York State. In its raw form, Labradorite often goes unnoticed. Field collectors walk past it, assuming it's basalt or river-worn shale. But under the right angle and sun, that rock becomes something else entirely. Depending on its orientation and polish, a premium 3-inch specimen with vivid multicolor flash can sell for $500 to $2,000. But the real worth? It's that moment of discovery, the shift from dull to dazzling. And if you've ever held one at just the correct tilt, you'll know that fire doesn't always need flame. Sometimes it waits inside the stone. Ranked 8th, Malachite, the treasure veins beneath the dust. There's something oddly disappointing about the first time you spot malachite in the wild. You expect radiance, but you get a crusty green blotch on the side of a rock. Dull, dusty, like something that should have been scraped off. It's easy to dismiss. And that's precisely what makes it dangerous to overlook. Malachite doesn't demand attention. It whispers. Found near copper deposits, mainly across parts of Arizona, Utah, and New Mexico, it often forms in botryoidal lumps, like clusters of grapes, hiding in the cracks of oxidized stone. Its outer surface is chalky, uneven, and faded like old paint. But when split or polished, malachite reveals an interior unlike anything else in the mineral world. Deep, flowing bands of green, from forest dark to acid bright, arranged in hypnotic concentric rings. It's not rare in the sense of supply. What's rare is quality, depth of color, clean banding, and size. A 6-inch specimen, richly patterned and well-preserved, can bring in $800 to $5,000 on the collector's market. Carvers and inlay artists prize it. Museum buyers compete for it. But the moment of value is born in silence, in a dusty wash or forgotten pit when someone decides not to walk away. Because malachite doesn't shine to get your attention, it waits. Only those willing to look past the grime see it. Copper's oldest secret, drawn in emerald ink. Ranked 7th, Petrified Wood, stone that once breathed. You don't expect time to feel heavy until you hold it. A chunk of stone that looks like driftwood, cracked, dusty, half buried in desert sand, doesn't scream value. But petrified wood isn't just rock. It's memory, fossilized, and sometimes it's worth thousands. Long before dinosaurs walked the earth, ancient trees stood where deserts now stretch in silence. Over millions of years, those trees fell, buried under ash and sediment, and soaked through with mineral-rich water. The wood decayed cell by cell. Quartz formed in its place, not over weeks, not even centuries, but over tens of millions of years. What's left is a perfect stone replica of what was once alive, often down to the growth rings. It is scattered across the American Southwest, especially in Arizona, Utah, and Nevada, in pieces resembling logs, branches, and bark. From a distance, it's almost comical how ordinary it appears. But slice it open, and you'll find polished swirls of red jasper, golden agate, or milky opal trapped inside. Collectors and museum buyers prize high-grade specimens, especially those with vibrant colors or rare mineralization. A polished 8-inch cross-section can sell for $1,000 to $6,000, while whole trunk segments have sold at auction for much more. Yet it's not just about the value for many who pick one up. It's about holding something that once reached for sunlight, now turned to stone, but still here. Ranked 6th, native copper, the metal hidden in stone. You know what copper looks like. Bright, reddish-orange, coiled into pipes, maybe a penny or two in your pocket. But raw, untouched copper in the wild? That's a different story. At first glance, it barely registers. Just a brownish blotch on black basalt, maybe a flash of metallic green if you catch it in sunlight. Most people think it's rust. Some think it's trash. And in that moment of misjudgment, they walk away from a rock worth thousands. Native copper isn't refined. It's not melted or cast. It's elemental, formed deep underground and pushed to the surface by volcanic pressure. Nowhere is this more legendary than in Michigan's Keweenaw Peninsula, where chunks of pure copper, sometimes weighing over 100 pounds, have been pulled straight out of the earth. Even a small 3-inch nugget with clean exposure can fetch $300 to $1,500, while larger matrix-bound specimens often climb past $5,000, especially if they preserve crystal formations. The real beauty of native copper isn't just in its weight or purity, it's in how invisible it is to the untrained eye. It doesn't glitter like gold. It doesn't refract like quartz. It blends in and hides beneath oxidized crusts and earthy reds. Rockhounds often find it by accident, cracking open a basalt boulder only to find a web of metallic veins threading through like fossilized lightning. In a world obsessed with refinement, native copper reminds us that sometimes value doesn't need polish. It just needs someone to look a little closer. Ranked 5th, agate, the painting inside the stone. Not all treasures sparkle. Some of them quietly and patiently wait inside a rock that looks like nothing at all. Agate is one of Earth's most fantastic illusions. On the outside, it's just a dusty brown nodule, rough and forgettable. The kind of rock you might kick down a gravel road or toss aside on a dry creek bed. But inside, a world unfolds. Swirls, bands, and ripples of color, reds, golds, grays, and violets, are etched layer by layer over millions of years like brushstrokes trapped in silence. No two agates are ever alike. Some resemble desert sunsets. Others look like frozen storm clouds. Some agates contain perfect rings or landscapes so vivid they've been mistaken for paintings under glass. and yet they start off looking like nothing. Agates are the classic, don't judge a book by its cover, gemstone found across Oregon, Montana, Lake Superior, and even in roadside ditches. Most weigh less than a pound, but a well-cut 4-inch slice from a rare Lake Superior agate with concentric bands or eye formations can command $800 to $2,500, sometimes more if mounted or part of a collector's pair. But the real magic of agate isn't just in the price, it's in the reveal. That split second when a lapidary saw touches the stone and the dull breaks open into color. That's not just geology, that's poetry in quartz. Ranked fourth, turquoise, the blue vein. Most people walk right over. It's not the bright sky blue stone you see in jewelry stores. Not yet. Turquoise is a subtle pale blue streak in the wild that crawls through crumbly brown rock. It looks more like water damage than anything valuable, and that's why so many people step right over it. Turquoise is a copper aluminum phosphate that forms in dry, arid climates, usually near old copper mines or iron-rich soils. In the American Southwest, primarily Arizona, New Mexico, and Nevada, it hides in hillsides, old pit walls, and roadside outcrops. You'll miss it every time if you're not trained to spot the difference between just another mineral stain and high-potential turquoise. And that's a costly mistake. A 1-inch rough nodule of untreated gem-grade turquoise can sell for $100 to $500. But the real value comes in what's cut from it. Stones from legendary mines like Sleeping Beauty, Bisbee, or Royston, with clean color and minimal matrix, can sell at over $1,000 per carat. That's more expensive than many sapphires. Yet in raw form, turquoise looks fractured, faded, and unremarkable. It takes a trained eye to distinguish treasure from background noise. Turquoise isn't just about color, it's about context. You don't just find it, you recognize it. And for those who do, the reward isn't just financial. It's discovering a fragment of the Earth's most iconic gem, hiding in dirt-streaked silence. Ranked third, amethyst, the royal gem that hides in caverns of dust. Amethyst was more than a gemstone, it was a guardian. The Greeks believed it could ward off intoxication. Medieval bishops set it into their rings to shield the soul, and for centuries it was reserved for royalty alone, a stone of power, wisdom, and divine clarity. Today, it often starts as a lumpy grayish geode, round, cracked, coated in clay, and entirely forgettable until you split it open. Inside, a cathedral of violet erupts, razor-tipped crystals glowing with lavender fire, clustered so tightly they seem to hum. This transformation feels like a myth, yet it's genuine. Found in Arizona, Colorado, in parts of the Carolinas, American amethyst often hides in volcanic rock or sedimentary pockets. In its rough form, most people mistake it for a river stone or a piece of slag. But under that drab exterior, the royal color of quartz waits patiently. A high-grade 5-inch cluster with sharp termination and deep purple saturation can bring in $500 to $3,000. More if it comes from a well-known locality like Four Peaks, Arizona. Depending on depth and hue, larger geodes have sold at auction for tens of thousands. But value aside, amethyst evokes something more. Reverence. The idea that beauty, mystery, and meaning can all be hidden inside a rock you'd never think twice about, until it breaks and history glows from within. Ranked second, jade, stone of the emperors. In ancient China, jade wasn't jewelry, it was immortality. This was the stone buried with emperors, carved into ceremonial daggers and placed over the hearts of the dead. It wasn't just valued, it was worshipped. But in the wild, you'd never guess what you're looking at. Raw jade, especially nephrite or jadeite, often looks like a river stone, smooth green-gray, sometimes with white streaks or dull weathering. Hikers accidentally find it in places like Wyoming, California, and British Columbia, skipping it across streams or tossing it aside like another rock. The difference lies in texture, translucency, and tone. A single 2-inch pebble of translucent imperial green jadeite, if uncracked, can sell for $5,000 or more. Larger carvable pieces, especially from legacy locations, have fetched six-figure sums at auction houses from Hong Kong to New York. And yet it's easy to miss. Genuine jade doesn't sparkle, it doesn't flash. It glows softly like something alive, which is why it's so often misjudged. It doesn't look valuable by force, it requires reverence. To hold raw jade is to touch something ancient, something that outlasted dynasties, crossed oceans, and still waits. Half buried in riverbeds, forgotten mines, and high mountain trails, for the next pair of hands worthy of finding it. In the first place, amber, time, trapped in resin. It doesn't sparkle, refract, or feel cold like most stones. Amber is warm to the touch, and that's fitting. This isn't a gem born from fire or pressure. It's fossilized sunlight, a liquid memory, a moment from the deep past, suspended in gold. Raw amber looks like hardened glue to the untrained eye, dull, cracked, and often dust-caked. You'd find it tangled in seaweed along the shores of Alaska or the Carolinas, or buried in gravel pits, mistaken for tree sap that washed up in a storm. And yet, that small, brittle lump may hold something the world hasn't seen in over 100 million years. A perfectly preserved insect, a piece of leaf, a thread of spider silk. This is where science turns to poetry. Amber is an ancient tree resin that hardens over time into organic glass. But what gives it value isn't just age, it's content. A 1-inch specimen with an explicit insect inclusion can command $800 to $5,000, and rarer finds like lizards, feathers, or full-bodied spiders have sold for over $20,000 at fossil and gem auctions. Collectors chase it, paleontologists worship it, but most people, they walk right past it, because amber doesn't shout, it doesn't shine. It quietly waits for the one person to pick it up and look a little closer. What they'll find isn't just a stone, it's time itself, holding its breath inside a golden drop. We started with rocks that looked like nothing, just dirt-covered, gray, forgettable pieces of the earth. But now you know that value doesn't always shine on the surface. Sometimes it hides in cracks, clings to riverbanks, or sleeps beneath the dust of time. These stones weren't just minerals. They were time capsules, ancient art, pieces of history, and they remind us that the ordinary can be extraordinary if you know how to see it. If you enjoyed this journey through hidden treasures, don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out our next video, where we reveal even more rare gems you could find in places you'd never expect. Because out there, beneath your feet, nature's fortune is still waiting.